Welcome to the Catholic Table Talk podcast. This is where everything Catholic is on the table. New episodes Thursdays at 9 a.m. Eastern on most podcast platforms. Here's your host, William Sauber.
And welcome back, everyone. Making 2026 more bold could mean taking a trip overseas. On this episode, Steve Way, a convert to the faith, joins me to talk about and invite you about taking a trip with him. Steve has appeared on a ton of Catholic radio networks like Gary Matruda's show, the Bear Wozniak Adventure that you're most familiar with, and now I'm honored to have him on my show. And I think a lot of you don't really know him too well, but I think after you hear what he has to say and where he's been today on this episode, you might want to book a trip with him. So with that, welcome to the table, Steve Way. So Steve, like I mentioned right before we got on, it's an honor to have you on. I've been listening to you for a few years, and just diving into your trips, they seem like a very good time. So I can't wait for a conversation.
Well, thank you, William. We just got back from Israel about 3 days ago, so I'm still a little bit jet lagged.
Sure.
And it always hits us. I'm 71 years old now, and the older I get, the more the jet lag hits you. But we had a wonderful time. We had 53 people, a sold-out bus, and we had 13 young teenagers on the trip with us because it was over Christmas break. And so the kids are out of school, so families bring their children with them. And when you have kids on the trip, it's really nice. They're a lot of fun. They add a new dynamic to the pilgrimage. And so we've led, my wife and I have led over 100 trips to the Holy Land. And with the same guide 20 years ago. Last year was our 20th anniversary. And 20 years ago, I went over and introduced and interviewed all of the Catholic guides. And I chose one and said, this is the best. And we've been working together on 100 trips for the last 20 years. He's from Nazareth. He's a Roman Catholic, and he is a walking Bible and knows the land. So we've been doing that. We had 50 other trips that we've taken to other places like Poland and Ireland, Lourdes and Fatima, Guadalupe, St. Paul cruises, all over Italy, all the Catholic sites. If you said, are you ever going to go to Jamaica? Are you going to ever go to Hawaii? I said, why?
Right.
Well, I like going to Catholic places. I like going and seeing the beautiful churches and helping people love the Lord more. So that's kind of what our passion is.
Gotcha. Yeah, and I bet I haven't been to any of those places, Steve, but I bet you the weather is pretty nice. I mean, I know Hawaii is nice, Jamaica is nice, but I bet you some of those places are still pretty nice most of the time. Am I correct?
Yeah, and we go at the right time of year. I would never go to Israel in July or August because it's over 100 degrees. And but going, my favorite time is now, November, December, January, February, because it's cooler. But it's like California or somewhere. It's not like where I live in Michigan. There's always snow on the ground and cold. Where it's kind of like Northern California, very temperate and comfortable. So you wear a coat in the morning and take it off in the afternoon in the Holy Land. And in the summer, it gets a little bit warmer, but the weather is nice. And this time, it was forecasted it was going to rain the whole time, but it never rained on us. Sometimes it rained while we were on the bus or while we were in churches, but when we were out there, it was like the Lord shut the faucet off. So we had a good time.
Good. That's good to hear. And I know we've been emailing back and forth, and you said that you were the first American group back to Israel. Is that correct?
Yeah, this is because for 2.5 years during the time of the conflict over there with Hezbollah and Gaza and all those things, we were there with 2 buses full in October of 2023. And we came home on the 5th of October, and on the 7th, the war started. We got out of there just in time. A lot of people weren't so fortunate. They got stuck there, had to drive to other countries and pay for extra plane tickets out. But we had a very blessed time. And so that was 2.5 years ago, October 7th, 2023, and almost 2.5 years ago. And when we were there, our guide said that we were the first big bus of American pilgrims back in the land. We were the first ones. And I had to tell you, it was true. We'd go to places like Beatitudes, for example. And sometimes there'd be 40 buses parked there. This time there was 4, and most of them had like 20 people on them. And here's our bus pulls in. We got 53. Every seat's full. And so we were the first big bus back, and they said we were the talk of the town. We were, everybody was like, there they go.
Wait.
But we're taking another group back at the end of February with my son, Jesse, because my son works at Ave Maria University in Florida, Catholic University, and they hired him to be in charge of a lot of things. One of them is to arrange all their pilgrimages and travel. So he's got a passion to take college students, because college students get into their schools and in a short time they become atheists. They get all the skepticism and they lose their faith. I think 9 out of 10, it seems like that happens too. So my son said, I want to take them over and show them this land, give them a 1-week intense Bible study in the land of the Bible, and then they'll never leave the faith. So we have a bus going at the end of February in about 6 weeks, and it's going to be 39 students and 26 faculty and donors. So we're going to have that'd be interesting, having the students and the big money guys, donors, going as well.
Right.
And then I've got another trip going in April. We still have a few seats left on that, but we're going to take another group in April, and then a group in November and December to Israel, and also Lourdes and Fatima and Ireland and a St. Paul cruise all this year.
Wow. I know I personally am interested in the Ireland trip. That sounds really good. I mean, it's a lot of Catholic history, and I just don't know much about the country. So that would.
And we've got the best guide. His name is Owen, and he's a lot of fun. And the driver is also a lot of fun. And those two guys keep the bus laughing all the time. And and our priest is also Irish. He's a very good friend of ours, and he goes on about 4 pilgrimages a year with us. He's our favorite.
Wow.
And Father James. And he is just a wonderful Orthodox, devout Catholic priest, but who's a lot of fun too. And we put the driver and the guide and Father James together, and the whole bus is roaring with laughter. And we learn all about Ireland and its history and the persecution of when the Protestants took over, and the martyrs. And we go to Our Lady of Knock, and it's really a beautiful trip. Ireland is so beautiful and green. It's called the Emerald Isle, and it's full of Catholic history, and the people are so friendly. It's good food. We have wonderful hotels. I'm looking forward to going back.
Good. Like I said, that's just it's a great place. I mean, like I said, I've never been there, but it's why I'm for it. It's a beautiful place, and people are friendly. I mean, what more can you ask? So.
Yep. And Our Lady of Knock is very special, where the apparition took place. And people think of it as a Marian apparition, but because Mary was there, but it's really more than a Marian apparition. It is a Eucharistic apparition, because the main emphasis of that, Mary is off to the side with Joseph and the Apostle John. But on the center is an altar, and on the altar is the Lamb. And behind the Lamb is a cross. And the Lamb is saying, I am the Lamb of God. I'm on the altar. I've given myself for you as the Passover meal. Come and eat the meat of the Lamb. It says, and it's all taken out of the book of Revelation, that apparition. So I give a half-hour talk when we're there about the meaning of the apparition. And it's quite exciting. It's quite nice.
Going back to Israel, is that just how safe, because I know a lot of people probably don't want to go because they don't probably feel safe going over there. Just how safe do you feel over there? How close is the war? How is that on the ground?
I wouldn't have taken a group there a year ago, although the problems were mainly up in the north with Lebanon and down in the south with Gaza, which really didn't affect the main middle part of Israel. The places we go, it wouldn't have affected us much. But then there was some times last June where it was a little more dangerous, and I wouldn't have taken groups there, but that was just for a week's period of time. I've been going there, William, since the first time was 1995. How old were you in 1995?
I was not even in existence yet.
I started going there in 1995 was our first trip. We became Catholic in 1994. And all of a sudden, I had this insatiable desire to see the land of the Bible. I never had that desire as a Protestant. I don't know why. But as a Catholic, all of a sudden, I had to see that land. And my wife and I, we went the following year. And we loved it so much. I got home and I said, we got to go back. And 6 weeks later, we turned around and went back again. And then a couple months later, we rented a van and I took my 4 kids and we just drove around for a whole month, just exploring all the things on our own. But I have been there over 200 times, led 100 groups through there. I have never had a problem. It's a friendly country. They have excellent security and police and military. I feel safer in Israel than I would going downtown Detroit or San Francisco or Los Angeles. I would feel much safer there. And when we get people on the bus, I ask them, did your relatives all say, why are you going there? I'll pray a rosary for you every night. I guess if you're going to die anywhere, you might as well die over there. And they almost everybody says their family reacts like that. But at the end of the trip, I say, did any of you feel like you were in danger? Did anyone feel unsafe or threatened? And they say, no, we never felt safer. This was beautiful. The people are friendly. The security is everywhere. Every hotel has an armed security man sitting in the front in the lobby, which makes everybody feel safe. This is a very secure country. So we have never felt unsafe. The people that go with us, even on this trip, said they felt totally safe. And this was just a week ago. And we're taking more trips. Americans will start pouring back into Israel in the middle of this year or in the fall. Once it's out of the news media cycle a little bit, Americans have short memories and they'll forget about it. When they hear it on the news, they think that those things are happening on every street corner. There's bombs going off. It's not. It's in very isolated areas. And for example, in Chicago, over 600 people a year get killed in Chicago.
Yeah.
But if there's a business convention or a wedding, people have no hesitation to get in a plane and fly to Chicago and go to the wedding. They just know where not to go, where to stay away from, the bad areas. And it's the same in any country. And when we go there, we know where to stay away from. I'm not going to take people to Gaza. I'm not going to take them places like that. But so it's a matter of just knowing what you're doing and having good sources on the ground, having good people on the ground. So if there ever was a problem, they would know exactly what to do. So we never feel unsafe. And just for the political situation, Hezbollah in the north has been decimated, and Iran is having all kinds of problems on their own. And I don't think they're going to be in a position to fight much anymore. And if they're not supporting the other radical groups, those groups can't function. Hamas, Hezbollah, the Houthis, all that. Once Iran goes down, it's going to be a very much more peaceful area over there. So it's time to go back. And it's a wonderful, safe trip. And you feel like you're in the 51st state of the union. You feel like Israel, they jokingly say it's our new state, state number 51. You feel like that when you're over there. Everybody speaks English. Everybody uses dollars.
Really? Wow. Well, thank you for saying that, Steve, because I don't think you could have said any better, because I was supposed to go to the Holy Land last year, and actually the guy who was going to lead kind of fell ill a little bit, so we couldn't go. And plus, that was when, again, the stuff was breaking out again. But yeah, you hit the nail on the coffin. Like, people, your family's like, don't go over there. Don't you know what's going on?
Yep.
But
Yep.
it's like the big cities. I mean, I'm in Minnesota. I mean, we don't like going down to Minneapolis. That's not bad. It's just you stay away from the bad corners, like you said. So that's totally true.
Exactly. Yep. Exactly. Well, did I ever tell you how this all got started? Do you want me to tell you how it got started?
If
with
you
the
could,
pilgrimages?
Please,
yeah, it's kind of a fun story.
Okay.
After I became Catholic, we went ourselves and took our kids with us. It changed our life. I cried my way through the whole first time. I was so moved to realize this is where Jesus was. This is the Sea of Galilee. He walked on the water right over there. And it was very emotional for me. And we went back again and again. And in the year 2000, I woke up in the middle of the night. I had a dream. I don't know what it was. I jokingly say maybe it was just indigestion. I had pizza or something woke me up. But I woke up in the middle of the night, and it was in my head as clear as if a bell was ringing. I had to do a movie series, a 10-part video series on the whole story of salvation from Abraham to the Apostolic Fathers. It had to all be filmed on location. It had to be an adventure, like Crocodile Hunter. Couldn't be boring. It have to wrestle snakes and fall in the mud and ride horses and all that, so that kids would love it. And it had to be defending the faith, and you had to be able to show that all of these places exist. Well, I woke up in the middle of the night, and it was all in my head. I grabbed my wife, and I shook her awake, and I said, Janet, wake up, quick. We have to do a 10-part video series on the history of salvation from a Catholic perspective. We got to make movies, Janet. Wake up. And she goes, she said, you woke me up and scared me half to death to tell me we got to make movies. She said, it's 2:00 in the morning. Go back to sleep. She said, and by the way, we can't even take good pictures. How does God expect us to make movies? Well, I got up that night and I typed out on my computer the whole outline for the series. It was just in my head. It was like God put it in there. And I called Ignatius Press the next day and I said, I have an idea. They said, fly out and tell us about it. So I flew out to California with my wife, and we had a board meeting with them. Father Fessio, I'd already written 2 or 3 books that they had published. So they said, tell us your idea. And they had a bottle of red wine and a bottle of white wine on the table. And I waited till both bottles were empty before I told them their story. I figured the more wine they drink, the better chance I have. Anyway, so they said to us, well, that's an interesting proposition. You want to make a 10-part video series. You want us to provide the money and the marketing. I said, yes. And I said, I don't know anything about video, but I have these guys that I talked to, and they said they'd help me, And so he said, well, how much has it been done before, this movie series? I said, no, never been done before. He says, okay, how much will it cost? I said, I don't know, but these guys tell me it'll be at least $2 million and maybe more. He said, okay. He said, my third question is, how soon can you get started? Here's $50,000. We want you to get started. In 6 weeks, my wife and I were flying all over Israel, Egypt, Turkey, Italy, all over in helicopters, getting all the aerial footage for all the sites that I wanted to do. 6 weeks later, we went back and we filmed the documentary on Peter. We filmed it all in Israel and in Rome. And then we did Mary. And then we did Paul. And we did 10 of them now. It's been 25 years. We just finished the 10th one. Now, about the pilgrimages, how that got started, and that's where I was going to tell you about, is people started saying to us, Steve, you are taking us to all of these lands of the Bible on video. Why don't you take us in person? If you go over there and lead us, we'll come. So I went on my website in the year 2005, and I put up that we're going to go to the Holy Land. We're going to do this and that and the other. And I said, if you want to come, sign up. And within a matter of a couple of weeks, the bus was full. That was in 2005. So last year, we celebrated our 20th anniversary of leading pilgrimages. So 2005 to 2025. Now we're in year 26, 21. But that was our 20th anniversary last year. We had a big celebration on a Danube River cruise. But that's how it got started. And so we took our first trip, and we had a Jewish guide who had helped me with all the filming. He had the one that got the helicopters for me and helped me with all the permits and everything. And he was a good guy when it came to making movies, but he was not a good guide for a Catholic group. Sure. He'd make jokes like, "Thank God I'm an atheist." Well, you know, that's not, the people that come with we want to hear about the Lord and about celebrate Mass, and we pray the rosary at all the rosary sites, and we pray the rosary on the bus, and we talk. I give talks at all the sites about the Bible and what happened here and what happened there. So I came back and I interviewed all the Catholic guides. There were only about 30 of them, and I picked the one I liked. My wife and I did, and we've been working with him 100 trips since then. And that's how the whole thing got started. It wasn't like I one day said to my wife, let's write a business plan. I already had a business. I had 600 employees. We were doing $12 million a year in sales. I'd started the business myself. I didn't need to start a new business. But when I became Catholic, I fell in love with the Bible and with teaching. And I wanted to know everything, and I wanted to tell everyone else everything. I wanted to defend the Catholic Church. I wanted to explain that the Bible is our book, and I wanted to let everybody know that. So I didn't sit down and say, well, let's call a business consultant and let's figure out how much it's going to cost. Let's make a business plan here. Let's see, in 1 year we'll do this, and the second year we'll do that. I didn't do any of that. God just kind of pushed us into it. And here we are now. We've been Catholics 32 years, and God has pushed us into this thing. And I love it, but I didn't plan it. I just said, okay, Lord. I felt kind of like Mary. I don't want to say I'm like Mary because there's a lot of ways I'm not like Mary, but she said yes. She said, okay, I'll do it. And my wife and I did the same thing. And as a result, the Lord used us. And it's been very exciting. We have 21 grandchildren. I have one great-grandchild on the way. And my goal is to get all of them to the Holy Land at least once in their life. All of my kids and their spouses have gone. And now at least half of the grandkids are gone. Some of them are still too young to go. But I took one last week, our granddaughter Bella, 16 years old. And when we go back in February, I'm taking 3 more of them. So, by the way, if I'm taking my grandkids, if my wife is willing to take our grandkids, it's safe over there. I'm not going to take my grandkids into harm's way. So,
right, that's true. No, very cool. I did not know about that, Steve. And I know your conversion is very powerful and inspiring. We could actually have you back on and talk about that because it's very incredible. So if you're willing in the future, we'll have you back on for that. But yeah, for the pilgrimage, first of all, congratulations on 12 years. And that's pretty incredible. Just having the fuel, what do you call it, the hunger to keep going back, and not getting, old or bored of it, or I'm not worthy anymore, but you keep doing that. So congratulations. That's pretty awesome. It's
exhausting. People say, do you ever get tired of it? And I said, I get tired, but I never get tired of it. I learn new things every time I'm there. And it takes us a few days to recover, but I never get tired of it. People said, didn't it get old showing the same places to people over and over again? I said, no, because I get to see it again for the first time through your eyes. I watch you and I see you get tears in your eyes, and I see your life change, and I see the joy on your face, and it makes it all worth it for us. So we don't get tired of it. And I love to teach along the way. For example, at Capernaum, that's in John chapter 6, where Jesus said, eat my flesh and drink my blood. And the last verse says, he spoke these words in the synagogue in Capernaum. And while we're at the synagogue in Capernaum, I give my 20-minute talk defending the Eucharist. And I've given that talk 100 times there. And I've given that talk at least 100 times at men's conferences and parish missions, but it's not 20 minutes, it's an hour. But
Sure.
I learn a lot from that. When I write my books, like I just wrote my book on Genesis, a commentary on Genesis, 450 pages. And I've been to all the places that Genesis mentions. So it makes it, I can write the book from a firsthand experience in a way, because I've ridden camels, I've ridden donkeys, I've slept out there. We know what it's like to eat the food there, and I know what the people are like. I know what the countryside's like, and I've been to those places. I've been to Iraq. When we filmed our story on Abraham, I had to go to Iraq because that's where Abraham started the story. So when I write a book like the Gospel of John I wrote and the book of Genesis, I can write it in a special way because I've been to all those places and I can still see them in my mind's eye, and I can write about them that way. So doing the traveling has been very good for us because it enables me to teach the Bible better than I would otherwise. By the way, this year I will pass 3 million miles with Delta alone. I'll be 3 million miler. That's what they call it, 3 million miler. That's a lot of time to spend in airports and on airplanes.
I bet. I can imagine that. As a guy who have never flown before, I can't really fathom that. So, but yeah.
Well, you're not missing anything as far as the airplanes go. It's very tedious now with all the security, but it's what you have to do to get there. So that's what we do.
Sure. So, Steve, I mean, what is kind of your favorite trip to go on, pilgrimage or country to go on? And maybe real quick, maybe just talk a little bit about something that one little thing about each trip that you lead that you really like about it.
Well, I'd have to say, of course, that Israel's our favorite because that's where God walked. God, I say it's called holy ground because Jesus, God himself, walked on that land and he sanctified it. Do you remember when Moses was in the wilderness with the sheep and he sees the burning bush?
Yep.
And God's voice comes out of the bush and says, take off your sandals, you're on holy ground. And Moses could have said, well, it's just dirt. What do you mean? I walked here yesterday and there was nothing special about it yesterday. It was just dirt yesterday and it's dirt today. Why do I have to take my sandals off? Well, the reason you have to take your sandals off is because now I am present, God says, and I make the land holy. So you take off your sandals. But he didn't walk anywhere else. God walked in that land, part of Egypt and Jordan and all of that Israel area. That's where God walked. Therefore, that's holy ground. Everywhere else, like Rome and Poland and Ireland, I say that's sacred. It's very special, but it's not holy like the Holy Land. So I want my first love is the land of Israel, where Jesus was, where the prophets and the kings and where Abraham and the patriarchs were and where Mary lived, and to go to all the places related to their lives and the beginning of the early church, the book of Acts. That's my first love. And that's why I've been there way more than anywhere else. But I love Rome and Italy because if you want to do the whole thing right, you start in Egypt with Moses coming out of you could even start in Iraq. Let's do this way. So you got to start in Iraq where Abraham started. That's where Babylon was. That's where the Garden of Eden was. That's where Abraham was. All that stuff started in Iraq, in Mesopotamia, and the Tigris and Euphrates River. And then you have to come over to Canaan, which was Israel. Then you have to go to Egypt with Moses and come back. And then you have to go up through with the New Testament church with Paul and the apostles. You have to go up into Turkey and go across Turkey and go to all those places, because if the church was born in Israel, it grew up in Turkey. The first 8 ecumenical councils were in Turkey. All of the 7 churches of the book of Revelation are in Turkey of today. Most of Paul's work was done in Turkey. And then go across Greece and then end up in Rome. And then you've got the glory of Christendom. That's over 800 churches in one city. The catacombs underneath where they were buried. So you've got you've got that whole flow of history. So if you want to see the whole thing, Iraq and Egypt, then come into Israel. From Israel, you go up into Turkey and Greece and all the way to the glory of Christianity in Rome. So that Italy is also one of my favorites because the food is so good. Don't tell anybody that's the reason I like it, though. The food is so good in Italy. Nobody here can replicate it. There's no Italian restaurant here that tastes like an Italian restaurant in Italy. But I love it there because there's the bones of St. Peter. You can go there. The bones of St. Paul 2,000 years ago. The bones of the other apostles are in Italy. And you can see St. Peter's, which is the largest and I think the most beautiful church in the world. It's just stunning, breathtaking. And you go to Assisi, and we have a trip that we call the Saints and Shrines of Italy. We start up in Milan, and we come work our way down to Pavia, where Augustine's buried, and to Florence, and all the way through all the saints, Padre Pio, and the face cloth of Christ, and the Eucharistic miracles, and end up in Rome for the glory of Rome. And that's one of my favorite trips. Poland, I love Poland because those people are so courageous. And they stood up against not only the Nazis, but then they stood up against the communists, the Soviet Union. And we did a trip through Germany one time, and the guide said the reason that East Germany became, and most all of Germany became atheistic and secular, kind of abandoning their faith, is because of the communists took over there in East Germany. And I said, no, give me the microphone. I said, it's not the communists that made Germany atheistic. It's Martin Luther, because Martin Luther divided Christendom. And there's a statement that says, united we stand, divided we fall. And Germany divided between Catholic and then Protestant, all these different sects. And when Martin Luther divided Christianity, it fell. And so it was susceptible to the Nazis, and it was susceptible to the communists. Poland, on the other hand, did not have a division. They stayed loyal to the Catholic Church. So when the Nazis came, they resisted and they fought, and they never collapsed. They stood strong and they kept their faith, even during all the time of the Nazis. And then the communists came. The Soviet Union took over for decades, and they never withered for a minute. They stood strong, and John Paul II came and visited them, and they had masses with thousands, even millions of people. They did not affected by Martin Luther and the split and the protesting. So I love Poland because those people are courageous, and they're still a Catholic nation today. They're an example to the rest of the European countries of what it's like to stay Catholic. And it's beautiful, and it's friendly, and the churches are gorgeous, and the food is good there too, by the way. So gotcha. That's another one. I already talked a little bit about Ireland. I love Ireland because there were times in history where Ireland was the main source of faithfulness to the Catholic Church. And the monks that went and lived in these monasteries that they built all over, they kept learning alive. They copied scripture, they copied the books, they kept it alive. And the scholars, it was just and they're losing their faith now over there. But up until 50 years ago, they were one of the strongest Catholic nations around. But when we go there, we still see the churches, we still see that spirituality, and we still see and see their history of under the British rule. And we love Lourdes and Fatima, of course, because at Lourdes and Fatima, that's Portugal, Spain, and France. We started in Lisbon, and we go to Fatima first, and where those three children were, and we see all the things that happen there and tell the story, and that's just an incredible thing. And I've seen the sun dance myself with my own eyes. In the island of the Philippines, we went there, and I know that at Fatima, they saw the sun dancing. It was a miracle. And once when we were in the Philippines, they said every May 13th, down here in the southern island, the sun dances on the 13th because it's the Fatima shrine. And we went down there and it was cloudy, so we didn't see anything. But on our drive home, the sky cleared up and my little daughter was looking up at the sky. And I said, what are you looking at? She said, Dad, I'm looking at the sun. I said, don't look at the sun. It'll hurt your eyes. She said, it's not hurting my eyes. And she said, it's moving. She was like 6 years old. So we got out of the car and the cars behind us all stopped too. And they all said, it's there. The sun is dancing. And I said to my wife, what do you see? I'm a skeptic. I have to have things proven to me. I don't believe it. I want to know the truth. So I said to my wife, what do you see? She said, I see the sun looks like a blue disc in the sky, but it's dancing, moving around. I said, that's what I see too. So I saw the sun dance. So Fatima, we talk about the miracles that take place there and the sun dancing. And that's wonderful. Then we go up into Spain and we go to Santiago, where the bones of the apostle James are buried. And that's where the El Camino, where people hike across Europe to come there. And we love stopping there. And they have a big incenser called a Budafumero, I think it is. It takes 8 men to operate this incenser. And they pull it up and they get it swinging. It takes 8 men. And it goes through the whole huge church. And you can't get in the way, because if you get in the way, it's going to knock you to the moon. And it goes whoosh, and it goes up this way. And all the way up, and then whoosh, it comes back, and it's heavy. It's a big thing. Incense is belching out of this thing, so that's cool. Then we go to Lourdes. We hit a bunch of other spots along the way, but then we go to Lourdes, and Lourdes is very nice with the healings and things that go on there. That's a spectacular place. So that's another one. We've gone to Guadalupe. I love Guadalupe too. That's another Marian apparition. Right when Martin Luther came and we lost 8 million Europeans to Luther's lies, Our Lady of Guadalupe came and we gained 8 million in the New World to replace the 8 million we lost.
Really? I did not know that.
Yep. 8 million fell away from the Catholic Church in Europe. 8 million were added to the church over here. And I would have to say that proved that Mary is the greatest evangelist of all time. In her work as an evangelist, all these apparitions. So those are some of the places we go. We've gone to Germany and Switzerland for the Oberammergau plays. We do, St. Paul cruise. I'll end with this one.
Okay.
That's we do this every other year in the fall. It's coming up this year in October. And we start in Athens and we hit 10 biblical sites. And it's all through the Mediterranean Sea. And the hotel follows us around because we stay on the ship.
Sure.
So you don't have to move. You just stay on the ship. And so we go to Corinth and Athens. Then we go up to Thessalonica and Berea. And then we go to Philippi and Neapolis. And then we go over to Istanbul. We go to Pergamum, one of the 7 churches of Revelation, and Ephesus. And we go to the island of Patmos. And this time we're not going to Patmos and Pergamum, but we're going to Rhodes and to Crete, where Paul landed. And then we have days on the sea, and I call it not just a St. Paul cruise, but we also call it a seminar at sea, because I give lectures all about the life of St. Paul and about Paul's writings and things. So it's a seminar at sea too. So those are some of the things we're doing. And we've been doing 10 or 11 a year. And we've decided that starting in 2027, we're going to cut back to about 5 a year. So we're going to go slow. So if anybody wants to go to those sites with us, they better do it now, because we're probably going to just do Israel after 2027. Just do Israel. Because that's what I really love. And that's what I know the best.
Right.
So that's an overview.
Well, very well done. I mean, it gave us our history lesson in the process. So appreciate that. And yeah,
I have a question for you. How do you know Bear Wozniak? Because you came very highly recommended. He says, you got to get on the show with Billy. Well, he calls you Billy. You got to get on the show with Billy. And I said, okay, well, tell me about him. He says, go do his show. He's a good guy. So how did you get to know him?
So basically I saw him just looking up for speakers to come on my show. And then I kind of read his profile, and then I started watching his TV show on EWTN. And then I'm like, I gotta get him on. So I got him on, and he's like, you gotta get my book. I got his book and listening and watching his show. And so, yeah, he's been on my show a few times, and he's invited me down to Florida with him for a few days. And so, yeah, that's pretty much the basics about it, unless he
Very
told
good.
you anything different.
Yeah, no, that's
Yeah.
it. But that's he's a guy full of life, isn't he?
He does. He is.
He's
Yes.
full of life. Yeah,
So,
yeah,
yeah.
he's a good
And
guy.
I gotta get him back on the show. I've been thinking about that too. It's been a year
Yeah.
since I've had him on, so gotta get him back on. But yeah, well, good stuff, Steve. I do have one more question before you
Yeah.
leave real quick. And I know, of course, everyone's like, this all sounds so great, and if I had all the money in the world, Steve, I would go on every single trip. But of course, everyone has budgets and planning around that. So I guess for what's kind of the price range? How does that? I guess how does that
With
work
the
out? I guess.
pricing, it's all different because it depends on if you
Yep.
want the airlines included or not. Our
Oh,
prices are
okay.
more than other groups because we do things very differently. For example, I make a movie of the trip. So when you are on the trip, every night I upload a YouTube video of that day. So all your friends and family can enjoy your trip with you virtually. They can actually see you and you can wave to them. And they watch the movie every night. And at the end of the trip, we turn it all into a 2-hour movie and we send it to you on a Vimeo link and also a thumb drive. I wrote a book, 110-page handbook for the whole pilgrimage, all the sites with the Bible verses and pictures. I don't sell that anywhere. I just give that to the people who come with us on a trip. We eat at really nice restaurants. I don't like buffet food all the time. So, for example, in Israel, we go to 3 of the finest restaurants in Israel. We have wine with all the meals. So they bring bottles of wine out. People enjoy that. All the tips are included. So at the end, you don't have people picking your pocket and say, oh, by the way, you have to pay the driver. All of that's paid in
Right.
advance. We do the airlines, all is paid and covered. So our trip. Oh, and also another thing is a lot of people do not reserve the room for you your last day. So you get up in the morning, your last day, you load your suitcase on the bus, you go all day, and then they drop you off at the airport. I don't do that. We keep the room for the last night, even though it cost me $5,000 or $6,000 extra dollars. So at the end of the last day, I can take you back to the hotel. You can have dinner, you can pack, you can take a shower, lay down for an hour or two, and I keep the room for you that last day. And that's a big deal. But that's also there's a cost involved. I also use the best drivers and guides. You can get some, I'll say, seedy drivers and they can get
Sure.
them for half the price of the ones that I use with brand new buses, good air conditioning. And if there's a woman sick, she can stay on the bus with my driver and I have no fear because I
Okay.
know all my drivers. And so ours are a little more money than others, but there's a reason for that. And people who go with us say from now on, we're not going with anybody else. We're just going to go with Steve Ray. I'm willing to pay the extra because everything is done right.
Good.
And my website is, you've got it on the screen here, catholicconvert.com is my site, but the pilgrimage one is Footprints of God. So I see that you've got that on there.
Steve, again, honored to have you on. Thank you for coming on. Hopefully we'll meet
Enjoyed being
sometime
with you.
before some.
Yep.
And
Well,
take
thank you.
care.
I call you William, but since Bear calls you Billy, that I like that too. So
Yeah, I'll have
good
to
talking with you, Billy.
Steve Ray right there, everyone. Go check him out. The links are down below for his website, for his overall website, and also his pilgrim page as well. So go check it out. And yeah, especially if you want to go on trips to other places besides the Holy Land, you only have probably about a year and a half to do it. So really check them out. Check out the prices, and reach out if you need any assistance to Steve or with me. Like I said, hopefully I'll go on a trip with him as well here in the near future. So hopefully you liked it. Hopefully you learned something new about the Holy Land and other places, and hopefully maybe God's storing in your heart. No time like the present. Life doesn't last forever. So go take an opportunity when you have it, and go for a very life-changing, once in a lifetime could be trip. I'm sure, again, you might have war, you might have maybe doubt of, should I go, should I not go? But like Steve said, I mean, people come back to him and say, we don't want to go with anyone else, we want to go with you, and we want to, they want to keep probably going back. So take it while you still can. So until next time, stay in state of grace, go to the sacraments, and we'll see you next time.
Thank you for listening to this week's episode of the Catholic Table Talk podcast, where everything Catholic is on the table. Don't forget to subscribe to Catholic Table Talk on your favorite podcast platform to get new episodes delivered directly to you every Thursday at 9 a.m. Eastern.